Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Ma. U.S. tariff exemptions for low-cost imports has ended. Was the de minimis exemption helpful for the U.S. economy in the first place? Texas Governor Greg Abbott signs a new congressional voting map into law. The redistricting prompts objections from Texas Democrats. President Trump has terminated former Vice President Kamala Harris's Secret Service protection. But the Epoch Times has learned from a senior official. A D.C. federal judge is hearing arguments today over the president's attempted firing of Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook. The judge isn't expected to make a decision today, but she's asking for more briefings on the issue. The Department of Veteran Affairs is committing $818 million in grants to combat veteran homelessness. We talked to a retired U.S. Marine Corps major who works directly with veterans. Today is the 20th anniversary of one of the most devastating natural disasters in U.S. history. We'll be live in New Orleans as the city honors those who lost lives. The U.S. is approving a potential sale of air-launched cruise missiles to Ukraine. The details of the deal, which is worth almost $1 billion.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Good afternoon and happy Friday, everyone. The White House has announced that it's canceling $4.9 billion in foreign aid. But this could set up a conflict with Congress. The Office of Management and Budget says President Trump used a maneuver that could effectively bypass congressional approval. It's called a pocket rescission, and it only works within 45 days of a fiscal year's expiry, so September 30th. The funds are withheld during the 45-day congressional review period, and if Congress doesn't act before the fiscal year ends, the funds expire. Pocket rescissions are uncommon, and the last one attempted was in 1983 by President Ronald Reagan. The maneuver sets up tension in Congress as it faces an October 1st deadline to avert a government shutdown. Democrats hint that they could stall a funding bill if Republicans don't push back against Trump's pocket rescission. Former Vice President Kamala Harris no longer has Secret Service protection. While former presidents receive Secret Service protection for life, federal law dictates that vice presidents receive 6 months of protection after leaving office. For Harris, that period ended on July 21st. However, then-President Joe Biden reportedly signed a directive to extend her protection for an additional year. Now, President Trump has canceled that extension. The executive memorandum dated Thursday directs the Department of Homeland Security to terminate the service on September 1st. The White House and Secret Service did not immediately comment on the matter. And Texas Governor Greg Abbott has just signed a new congressional voting map into law. The redistricting will give Republicans additional congressional seats for next year's midterm elections. Here's what the governor had to say.
I want to thank Lieutenant Governor Patrick, Speaker Burrows, Senator King, Representative Todd Hunter, Representative Cody Vasut, and all of the legislature who stayed in the Capitol and got this law to my desk. Texas is now more red in the United States Congress.
The Texas revised map has prompted objections from Democrats. Earlier this month, Texas Democrats delayed a vote by 2 weeks by leaving the state on August 3rd in protest. Before the map was signed into law, California attempted to counter any GOP gains in Texas by asking voters to approve new Democratic-leaning districts. Texas Democratic Party Chairman Kendall Scudder said he would challenge the new map in court. President Trump is moving to reshape federal policy on several fronts this week. He's ordered an investigation into politically motivated federal grants and signed executive orders on government architecture and federal labor unions. Here are the details.
President Trump has directed federal agencies to investigate whether taxpayer money has been misused for partisan political activities and lobbying. The White House says some existing grants had highly political overtones, including funding for LGBT teen programs and initiatives for, quote, advancing racial justice in elementary mathematics. In a memorandum Thursday, Trump wrote, in addition to being a wasteful, abusive, and potentially fraudulent use of the American people's money, the possible use of federal grants as slush funds for political and legislative advocacy raises serious legal concerns. The president also moved to standardize federal buildings, signing an executive order requiring classical architecture as the default style for new government projects. According to the order, public buildings should uplift and beautify public spaces and command respect from the general public. Trump's directive restores a style he says is rooted in the vision of Washington and Jefferson. It rejects brutalist and modernist designs that, according to Trump, many Americans find unappealing. And in another executive order, Trump acted to end collective bargaining for federal unions at certain agencies tied to national security. The order is directed at agencies like NASA, the National Weather Service, the Patent and Trademark Office, and hydropower facilities managed by the Bureau of Reclamation. The White House says the order is designed to ensure national security agencies can operate without delay.
A D.C. federal judge has indicated that she will not decide today on whether President Trump's attempted firing of Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook was legal. She's asking for an expedited schedule to give both sides more time to submit briefings on the issues. Cook is seeking an emergency temporary restraining order today to block the Trump administration from firing her, while a lawsuit over the president's action plays out. On Monday, President Trump posted a letter addressed to Cook, saying she was being removed from the Federal Reserve Board of Governors due to mortgage fraud allegations. Cook filed a lawsuit to challenge the move, asking the court to declare Trump's firing order unlawful and void. U.S. District Judge Gia Cobb questioned Cook's attorney for more than an hour over whether or not the alleged fraud without a conviction is enough to meet the cause requirement for removal. The government has argued in court filings that the president has discretion to decide whether or not the alleged act is enough. President Trump has chosen an acting CDC director after firing Susan Maneras. Her replacement is Health and Human Services Deputy Secretary Jim O'Neill. Before joining the Trump administration's HHS in June, O'Neill worked in the HHS during the George W. Bush administration and also in the private sector in hedge funds. He does not hold a medical degree or have medical training, but he said he has learned a lot about the medical field or the health field during his time in the government. During his confirmation hearing earlier this year, O'Neill said he supports the CDC's immunization schedules. But he also previously criticized the CDC over how it redefined the word vaccine and how it held back some data on COVID-19 cases among the vaccinated. The Education Department is accusing Denver public schools of violating Title IX, which prohibits sex-based discrimination. That's because the school district converted sex-separated restrooms into all-gender facilities. The school district is allowing students to use intimate facilities matching their gender identity rather than their sex. An investigation by the Education Department found that Denver's East High School converted a girls' restroom into an all-gender facility, but still kept an exclusive restroom for males. The Education Department says the school district created a hostile environment for its students by endangering their safety and privacy. The department offered the school district a 10-day window to voluntarily make changes or risk enforcement action, but it's unclear what the penalties could be. The Epoch Times newspaper reached out to Denver public schools but has not yet received a response. Americans kept spending in July despite higher inflation. New data released by the Commerce Department today shows consumer spending rose 0.5 percentage point from June. That's slightly below expectations, but still a slight uptick from the 0.4% increase in June, according to FactSet. Taking into account inflation, spending rose 0.3% last month, up from only 0.1% in June. That's right in line with what economists had expected. July typically brings summer sales events, including Amazon's Prime Day, and is a big month for back-to-school shopping. However, today's report showed that spending on cars and financial services drove the lion's share of last month's spending gains. President Trump is ending a long-standing tariff exemption, hitting billions of small packages with new import taxes. This comes as tariffs deliver a record $30 billion in revenue in August. Starting today, all shipments valued under $800 will be subject to duties, taxes, and fees, closing the so-called de minimis loophole that's been in place since 1938. Officials say the move will help curb drug trafficking, piracy, and counterfeit goods while generating billions in new revenue. White House trade advisor Peter Navarro said closing the loophole will save American lives and add up to $10 billion a year in tariff revenue. In 2015, the exemption was raised from $200 to $800. Since then, packages claiming the exemption went from 139 million to over 1.3 billion in 2024, many from fast fashion platforms like Shein and Temu. The administration stresses this change is permanent with no chance of reversal. The exemption's cancellation initially targeted China and Hong Kong, but today it was eliminated for all nations. Joining us now to discuss is Vance Ginn, president of Ginn Economic Consulting. He served as chief economist at the White House Office of Management and Budget under the first Trump administration. And we have Daniel Lacalle, chief economist at Tresses, a wealth management and financial service company. He's also an international financial analyst and author of the book Freedom or Equality. So first of all, great to have you both here. Good to see you, Vance. Good to see you, Daniel. Daniel, if I may, let me start with you. Can you talk to us about whether was the de minimis exemption helpful to the economy before it was eliminated?
I think that exemption made no discernible impact on the economy. And actually, if anything, as you had very well mentioned, it was viewed as a loophole to avoid tariffs and to increment the level of origin washing from some of the Chinese imports. So in general, that was one of those policies that in paper and in headline generate a certain level of logic saying that, well, this might be a positive for the economy, but it ended up having no discernible positive impact whatsoever. And what we have right now, as we have seen with the data recently, is that with the imposition of the new set of tariffs and the new commercial and trade agreements between other nations, what we have seen is that there is no inflationary impact. So I don't see that there will be any type of negative impact from changing it.
Vance, can I get your thoughts now? How are you looking at this? It seems like members of both parties have viewed the exemption as potentially harmful for the American company. What do you think, economy?
Yeah, it's a pleasure with you. And I think what we've seen is a lot of uncertainty that's drawn out in the economy from the increases in tariffs and everything else. The de minimis, I don't think, is a huge deal overall. What I'm more worried about is the amount and the size of the tariffs that have been put in place of taxes on Americans. And we just saw an inflation number today from the personal consumption expenditures, showed 3.1% increase year over year for the core inflation. So inflationary pressures are still out there, which is really a reflection of what the Federal Reserve is doing, putting so much money into the economy, not necessarily what's happening with the tariffs. Inflation is always and everywhere a monetary phenomenon, not a tariff phenomenon, because that reflects relative price changes on things that have tariffs on them that we're importing, not necessarily on all, a lot of the general prices of goods and services across the economy. And so while I don't think the de minimis thing is too big of a deal, I'm more concerned about the tariffs and the trade protectionism that's going on, because at the end of the day, Americans should be free to purchase what they want to purchase from wherever they want to purchase.
Right. We'll get into the tariff discussion in a bit more detail later. But right now, I just want to understand this de minimis exemption. Daniel, in your view, what are the benefits actually of getting rid of the exemption? Because you said earlier it didn't really have a positive impact noticeably on the economy.
The most important one is that it will clarify the situation and avoid a loophole that has been generating a lot of this origin washing that I mentioned prior. Also has reduced significantly the revenues for the United States in terms of tariffs. But what I also think is that this idea that small packages need to be exempt and larger packages need not be exempt makes no sense from an economic standpoint. What we need to understand is you may disagree with tariffs or not. That is a completely different argument. But the idea that there's going to be a benefit for the economy by eliminating any type of any type of tax, if you want, on smaller packages makes absolutely no sense. Think about it. Nobody would think that it's a good idea to, in Europe, for example, to reduce the VAT on a product if it's a small package versus a larger package. What is going to happen? That they're just going to suddenly, you're going to have a massive increase in the small packages. And obviously that has no impact. Furthermore, what we have seen is that actually the margins of companies that were taking the advantage of this loophole actually increased. So it's not even something that was generating a positive outcome for consumers. It was simply something that benefited. And obviously, if you have a loophole, taking advantage of it is not a bad thing. I'm not questioning that strategy, but certainly it did not have any type of positive outcome, for consumers.
Okay, Vance, I want to stay on this just a little bit longer on de minimis. So UPS reported a huge drop in parcel volume after the change in the exemption was first issued. Vance, do you think consumers will have fewer choices online after this?
It depends. I mean, I think, like Daniel was saying, I think it's important not to pick winners and losers with the tax code, including the de minimis. No matter what the size should be, it should be up to us as consumers to be able to purchase that across the way. And so, we'll see how much of an impact this has. But if they're reporting that it had an impact before, let's see what happens now. I mean, I think one of the things that we've seen within tax policy, and especially within tariffs and everything now with the de minimis and everything else, is there's a lot of complications. It's a labyrinth form of a maze of different taxes that are on businesses. And so removing some of those, like this de minimis situation, I think actually frees them up to make more profit-driven decisions versus what the government is telling them, okay, it's too small of a package or too big. That's just nonsense. It should not be a part of any sort of the tax code.
Okay, Daniel, I want your response now to what Vance was saying earlier. I think he was suggesting that perhaps tariffs will have a upward pressure on consumer prices. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, we have seen today with the latest figures and all of the figures that we're seeing is that tariffs, and he said it very, very well, tariffs do not cause inflation, and tariffs are not something that generates more units of currency in the system. What causes inflation is an abrupt increase in the amount of money in the system. Where are inflationary pressures coming, if there are any? Look at it today. In financial services, it's coming from the enormous boost of the financial market and the stocks. And we saw the other day, for example, in the PPI, how the only real inflationary pressure came from the portfolio management and the financial services part. So all of these things are important. And what we need to go all the time back to is, instead of saying that tariffs are the cause of inflation, is to go back to what is reality and what is macroeconomic certainty, which is that money supply is growing, global money supply is growing, central banks are exceedingly dovish, there may be some level of inflationary pressure, but it's not going to come from tariffs. It's going to come from the destruction of the purchasing power of the currency, which is the only thing that makes aggregate prices go up. And remember that what people are all the time trying to take us in the debate is to talk about individual prices. You hear a lot on the media, etc., how, oh no, but the prices of such good have gone up and the price of that good has gone up. No. Inflation is the destruction of the purchasing power of the currency, and price increases are a consequence of inflation. Tariffs do not cause inflation. You may criticize tariffs for other reasons, for political reasons, for commercial reasons, whatever you want to call it. Some people even call tariffs a reverse subsidy on the United States, whatever you want to call it. However, you cannot say that they cause inflation.
Okay, Vance, your response.
Well, I mean, I agree with him for the most part. I do think we see some inflation, well, not inflation, but price increases. When you look at steel here in the United States, prices are going up compared to Europe and other places. Some good charts out there recently that I've seen on that. We've also seen some of our other import prices have been increasing as well. So, but I mean, that's a direct reflection of the higher tax on those to Americans. I mean, tariffs are taxes on Americans. We should understand that. And I think this is part of the play that the Trump administration wants, is for Americans not to purchase as much imports, thereby increasing the price because they want to close trade deficits. I happen to believe that the trade deficit is not a concern because the current account deficit of goods and services is a capital account surplus of the flow of investments into the United States. And you could say, which one is the chicken or the egg? Which one is coming first? I'm not quite sure, but I do know that many people want to put money into the United States economy. It's the most stable economy in the world, even given the uncertainty that we have out there right now with some of the tariffs and other trade protectionism. And also, I think we really need to get focused on doing more here in the United States of controlling government spending, which is driving government debt and deficits. And that's creating higher interest rates than we otherwise would have and putting more inflationary pressure in the economy because the Fed wants to keep interest rates lower than what we would otherwise have. And right now there's a discussion about whether we should be cutting interest rates. And I'm fearful if we cut interest rates, that we'll actually see more inflationary pressures because the Fed will put more money into the economy. And so I would rather see us not do that at this point. They should be cutting the Fed's balance sheet, which is $6.6 trillion. Take all this together, what does this mean to Americans at home is that there is going to be higher prices that we're paying. We're seeing that in some of the inflationary pressures. It's not from the tariffs, it's from the debt from the federal government's printing or putting in place. And then the Fed, the money supply is increasing to basically monetize a lot of that debt. That's really where we should be looking at.
Okay, Daniel, a couple of points for you to respond to. How do you explain the price pressures on steel perhaps going up and how are you looking at government spending?
Oh, but the idea that prices of steel in America are rising because of tariffs and they're not rising in Europe because that the cause is tariffs. No, it's because the European economy is in an absolute disaster mode. That is what's happening. The reason why steel prices in an industry that is overloaded with capacity. Overcapacity is the norm in the steel industry. So what is happening actually is that there is overcapacity in steel. No country wants to reduce capacity. At the same time, some countries in Europe particularly are subsidizing the production of steel, and the price of steel in Europe is actually not declining, is going up at a slower pace for a very simple reason, that Germany, France, that most of the large economies in Europe are actually in stagnation, and the ones that are allegedly growing, like Spain or Italy, are because of services tourism. So that has absolutely zero to do with tariffs. Furthermore, if there is a sector that proves that tariffs don't cause inflation, that is the commodities sector. Look at anything that goes from oil to natural gas to coal, everything. What is proving is that actually producers have the ability to, not producers, but the entire chain of is very complex and absorbs the vast majority of it. Furthermore, in any case, I'm glad to see finally steel prices doing something in the United States. It's going to come down very, very quickly.
Okay, Vance, we just have a tiny bit of time left. You get the final word today. Any final thoughts?
Well, I think it's a great discussion, and it's something we need to keep looking at, because tariffs, I thought, were a part of a temporary way to bring others to the negotiating table. But it seems like this is going to be a more persistent, long-term tariff imposition by the Trump administration, and potentially after that. They're expecting $3 trillion in new revenue coming in over the next decade. So that indicates to me that it's more permanent. And I hope that that's not the case. We should not be in a situation to be raising taxes on Americans, and instead we should be cutting government spending and finding a way to deal with our fiscal crisis, which comes from government spending, not from revenue. And so that would also allow for more economic growth across the economy as well.
Well, one thing's for sure, that this topic is probably going to be discussed for the foreseeable future, as long as the tariffs are in place. Thank you very much for your time today, Vance and Daniel.
Thank you. Great pleasure.
Coming up today is the 20th anniversary of one of the most devastating natural disasters in U.S. history. We'll be live in New Orleans as the city honors those who lost their lives. Don't go away.
food. It fuels our bodies, nourishes our spirits, and brings us together. Because we all need nutritious food to thrive.
Food gives me energy and it also helps me focus.
But not everyone knows where their next meal is coming from. And 1 in 7 people in America face hunger. It's tougher than ever for too many of us. But the simple truth is, ending hunger is possible, and it starts with you. Call or go online to helpfeedingamerica.org and give $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, to help families in your community facing hunger. Feeding America works from coast to coast with partner food banks, food pantries, and meal programs. Your monthly gift delivers food where it's needed most, puts fresh food on the table, and helps kids have healthy meals all year round, even when school is out.
You can see the difference with the kids when they're full. Food is everything.
Please call the number on your screen or go online to helpfeedingamerica.org. Give $19 a month. Your first gift can double in impact. And we'll send you this free canvas grocery bag as a reminder of how you're helping to end hunger for good.
When it comes down to it, it's about taking care of your family first and the loved ones that you need to provide for.
Food donations help me tremendously, and I'm very grateful for the food bank.
I have hope.
The simple truth is, ending hunger in America is possible. You can help make it happen. The need is urgent. Call or go online now to helpfeedingamerica.org, and your gift can double in impact.
Whispered across generations, a hidden secret unveils the essence of longevity and vitality, a timeless legend regarding energy and wonder. Rooted in ancient health wisdom, we proudly introduce Pure Tang Black Ginseng, a 100% natural organic energy drink made from premium 6-year-old Korean ginseng. It takes 2,260 days and nights from seed to growth, undergoing a meticulous 9-step process of steaming and drying. Black ginseng reaches its full potency, enriched with ginsenoside RG3 and enhanced absorption efficiency. No sugar, no caffeine, no artificial ingredients. Experience the pure natural power of Pure Tang Black Ginseng. Nourish your body, strengthen your immunity, and boost your energy. To order Pure Tang Black Ginseng, please visit puretang.com.
Today marks the 20th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina's landfall, one of the costliest natural disasters in U.S. history that claimed over 1,300 lives. Local organizations like the New Orleans Katrina Commemoration Foundation and the Hip Hop Caucus are hosting events to mark the occasion. We're going live now to NTD national correspondent David Lam in Louisiana. Hi, David. Please give us an update.
Yep. Hey, Don. Good to see you. So far, if I were to describe the scenery or the environment, it's that the suffering has made people in New Orleans develop a stronger drive to rebuild. So earlier behind me, it's vacant now, but earlier within the past few hours, it was packed with people and speakers just sharing their experiences through Hurricane Katrina and how the rebuilding process has been. And a lot of the scenery here, you could definitely see the rebuilding and the impact. So we're going to show you part of the wall and the levee and what we're going to look at around here. So you'll see part of this levee is painted by a mural, and that's done by community members to help them cope, but as well as unite. And part of this wall was actually, it fell down during the 2005 hurricane. And that caused water levels to flood up to 15 feet high in some areas and throughout this neighborhood. So from across the wall, on the other side of the wall is a body of water connected to the Mississippi River. And just how close it is on the other side, you see this neighborhood. And in 2005, the area was devastated. It costed over $100 billion in damages total. and you could see some of the buildings many are rebuilt, cleaned up, but some, not all, are still in a rundown condition. So, but the big thing is that people have been uniting, and the mayor spoke today at a wreath ceremony at the Katrina Memorial. Let's take a listen.
And we know that on this day, 20 years ago, August 29, 2025, our city and our lives were forever changed. But 20 years later, we stand and we sit here united. We're not united in faith, but united in real purpose. And it's been because of each and every one of us that are here, that are throughout the city of New Orleans, who made sure that every single one of those 20 years later, New Orleans is still here, New Orleans still stands, and New Orleans is truly positioned.
And that's just some of the resilience that you've seen from a New Orleans resident. So, Steph?
So, David, when it comes to marches in New Orleans, what is the second line?
Yeah, Don. So the second line, so earlier the people here, they were getting ready to march up until 6 p.m. local time. And the first part of the march is to commemorate the Salmonists and those that lost their lives, to honor those victims. Now, the second line is the interesting part, because halfway through the march, there will be a second group of attendees that line up after the first group. And this second line has a more festive, exciting, and musical energy. So this is sort of a balance to this, to the culture here. So we have the solemnity, but as well as the rebuilding and the energy that comes from overcoming the suffering. So that's what the second line is, and it's unique to New Orleans, but also there's many parades as well that does it. But this is something that they talk a lot about here. I've been hearing the term second line a lot. Don?
All right, David, good to hear from you. Thank you. As the nation marks 20 years since Hurricane Katrina, residents are reflecting on the catastrophic storm and its aftermath. Survivors look back on the disaster when the city's levees failed to stop the floods. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the story.
So we are standing here.
In 2005, Sandy Rosenthal evacuated ahead of Hurricane Katrina. After the storm subsided, she founded levees.org that same year. The goal? To hold public officials accountable and preserve a tragic chapter in New Orleans history.
We, as residents, didn't know the levees weren't finished. As far as we knew, they had been completed in 2000. We thought we were ready. And no one in their wildest dreams ever thought they would break and unleash Niagara Falls.
At the London Avenue Canal breach site, the organization created the Flooded House Museum. The replica of a storm-ravaged home illustrates what families experienced when they returned to the city. Rosenthal says the location is an easy trip for visitors who want to learn more about the tragedy.
The London Avenue Canal breached just a stone's throw from this house. And it was one of the worst breaches in terms of the amount of water that it unleashed. It actually pushed houses out into the street.
Lonnie St. Jr. II was 10 years old when his family fled the city. He still has vivid memories of the catastrophe.
When we were leaving, actually, I remember turning around and looking out the back window of our car and seeing the entirety of the storm, and that's never left me.
St. Jr. says the city today has returned to its lively self, but some parts of the city remain empty, remnants and reminders of the storm 20 years later. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Coming up, the Department of Veterans Affairs is committing $818 million in grants to combat veteran homelessness. We talked to a retired U.S. Marine Corps major who works directly with veterans after the break.
I don't remember how it started. Our back and forth. Victory. Fumble. Repeat. It always came back.
Dad! Okay, here we go, throw it! Yeah.
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
Nice.
My 15-year-old son, Ethan, and I had a fun and relaxing morning. We returned home, and Ethan walked to his best friend's house an hour later. I heard the ambulance scream by the street, carrying my beautiful boy. Ethan was shot in the head in his best friend's house with an unsecured gun. He had zero chance of survival. The father, the gun owner, he stored his 3 guns and bullets in a shoebox.
How do you feel?
That has to be the most horrific experience that a human could ever have.
David, would you give any advice?
First thing you do is not keep your ammunition with your weapons, and that your weapons need to be locked at all times.
We come from a long line of farmers, and there's a sense of pride with being part of these multi-generational businesses. But there's also a significant amount of pressure. My senior year of high school, my dad made the decision that this world no longer needed him in it. I don't know if he was overwhelmed by the bills and checks that weren't going to be coming in because of the strawberries dying off, but it breaks my heart that my dad made a permanent decision for a temporary issue. Don't feel like you have to go through it alone.
Farmers have to take care of their physical and their mental health, because what's a farm without a farmer?
In the mornings, that's my time. Watching the sun come up, I can have a cup of coffee and exercise if I want to. It helps me start the day with a sense of gratitude.
Yay!
Every day is a new opportunity. Don't forget to check in on yourself. Love, your mind.
The Department of Veterans Affairs is committing $818 million in grants to combat veteran homelessness. Joining us now to discuss is retired U.S. Marine Corps Major Chris Lovell, CEO and founder of Lovell Government Services. Good afternoon, Major Lovell. How much of an impact do you expect this grant money to have on veteran homelessness nationwide?
Good afternoon, Don, and thanks for having me on to talk about this important issue. It's I think the $818 million is just another great win for the battle against veteran homelessness. And it's one veteran is too many on the street. But the good news is the veteran homeless population has decreased drastically since 2010. And the population that we know is about 32,882. And this $818 million that is going to be dispersed throughout around 235 organizations that focus on helping veterans get back on their feet is a great step to reducing that veteran population even more.
So, Major, from your perspective, with working directly with veterans, what are some of the factors that make them vulnerable to homelessness that are different from the general public?
Sure, great question. There's a lot of factors. Obviously, everyone's different. They'll have their different circumstances, but one of the largest factors that we see is that it's mental health struggles, right? PTSD, anxiety, followed by substance abuse, in various forms. Sometimes it's just really when you leave the service, a lot of veterans don't realize how much of a community that they have. It's almost like a family. And so when you leave a cohesive unit that you had shared experiences with, and you leave and go back to wherever you choose to go, you don't have that support network anymore. And so there's this, they feel like they're not connected. And so a lot of combinations of those things, social isolation, it just kind of compounds. And so they find themselves in a temporary spot. They're homeless. And the good news is the VA has been doing great things for years to address the problem.
So maybe we can talk about that. How do you address the root causes of homelessness rather than just a temporary fix?
Sure. A lot of times it happens on the local personal level, right? We like to say you love on that veteran, right? Whether it's a man or a woman that's in the street who's really maybe just down on their luck, struggling with different things. It's addressed on the local level. I don't think you're ever going to get rid of substance abuse. It's always going to be an issue. It seems like veterans struggle with it sometimes more than the general population. But at the end of the day, it's that human connection. And I think the great part of these grants is going to local charitable organizations that focus on homelessness, specifically targeting veterans.
What would you say, in your experience, are some of the barriers, perhaps internally or externally, that might prevent veterans from reaching out for help when they need it?
Sure, Don. I mean, veterans are just proud people, right? Sometimes it's hard to humble yourself and ask for help. And the good news is for those veterans who can't, these organizations are seeking them out to let them know that they're appreciated, their service was appreciated, and that they deserve the care that they earned during their service. And so this is a great step forward.
So you've seen a lot in your time helping veterans, and what are some of the success stories that are potentially motivating? Perhaps you can share with us. You've seen in veterans that you've helped to get back on their feet.
Sure, we help literally thousands of veterans every month with the medical care that veterans get throughout the 171 veteran centers throughout the country. And there's so many success stories. How much time do we have, Don? We could talk. But, I have veterans that will just call me and say, hey, Chris, I'm struggling with some anxiety. I'm having some problems with getting this device. I'm wait time maybe at the VA. Maybe they have an appointment the following week. We'll FedEx them, an anxiety device called the Calm Ego. And it's a small device like an albuterol inhaler, but it's over the counter. And it just lets them know that somebody cares about them. It's something they can hold in their hand. It helps them to reduce their anxiety. It's super low cost, and we do this on a regular basis for hundreds of veterans every month.
Do you think there are some other common struggles that veterans perhaps are facing beyond housing?
I think, veterans are just like everyone else, Don. We all struggle with different things, personnel issues, family issues, substance abuse, things like that. And the great news about all this is that veterans have an amazing amount of resources. And, in August, the VA marked their 29 millionth home loan guaranteed back by the VA home loan program. Since the program started in 1944, that program alone is helping veterans stay in their homes. And the president just signed into law, HR 1815, which is the Reform Act for veteran home loans, which allows the VA to, if a veteran's struggling, they can back the debt for the veteran and keep them in the home longer. And what a lot of folks don't realize is sometimes veterans are actually in the veterans hospital getting care when they miss their mortgage payment. So it allows the VA, the Veterans Administration, to take care of that debt. It could be temporarily. The veteran can pay back the VA if he chooses to, or if he doesn't, then that's just it's taken care of and taken care of during the sale of the house whenever that happens, whenever the house is sold. So a lot of great programs that Secretary Collins has worked with in just the last few months to help keep veterans, so many resources to keep veterans off the streets and, in a great place and on a path forward.
So earlier you said that you help 1,000 or more veterans each month. Honestly, that is very surprising in a good way. It's incredible what you're doing here. What gives you optimism about the future? What motivates you to do what you keep doing?
Don, what motivates me is, after 24 years of service in the Marines, I want to continually be around veterans and support veterans. And it gives me sense of purpose and to be able to interact with veterans, to still, we employ out of our 40 employees, 80% are veterans. Most of them are disabled veterans themselves. And just connecting with other veterans throughout the country, letting them know that, hey, we're still here. You may not be on active duty anymore, but we still care. We're still here, and we want to make sure that you're in a good place and that you're taking advantage of the benefits that you've earned. Whether some don't realize that they do have benefits out there and resources that are available to them to help them if they're struggling. And so it's just a rewarding part of what we do. We're happy to be a small part of what the VA does.
Okay, Major, just one last thing. If there is one message of encouragement you would like to give veterans listening to this, what would it be?
Well, if you're struggling, we love you. And you should reach out to a fellow veteran or even a family member. Let them know, what you're going through and what you need. Because sometimes, it's just that first step, just, humbling yourself, just ask for help. You'd be surprised how many great people are out there that want to help you through whatever you're struggling with. So I think the biggest thing is just communicate, let people know where you are and what you need. And you'd be surprised at how much help you're going to get.
Well, okay, Major, thank you very much for coming on the show. We appreciate your time and thank you for doing what you do.
Thanks, Don. Appreciate the time.
Next, Russia and Ukraine keep discussing a possible meeting between its presidents, but for now, the fighting continues and the U.S. is approving a potential sale of cruise missiles to Ukraine worth almost $1 billion. NTD's international correspondent Arian Pasdar has the latest.
Ukraine keeps pressing for a presidential meeting with Russia. President Vladimir Zelensky says he wants to discuss security guarantees with Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin. Ukrainian officials are seeking robust commitments from Kyiv's allies as part of any peace deal.
Regarding the security guarantees, we are organizing the European track next week so that everyone understands clearly the architecture. Then, during a meeting next week, we want to connect with President Trump and tell him how we see it.
The Kremlin says Putin does not rule out the possibility of holding such a meeting, but according to a spokesman, it's still too early for that.
Putin believes that any meeting at the highest level must be well prepared so that it can finalize the work that must first be carried out at the expert level. At this point, we can't say that the expert work is in full swing.
And Special Envoy Steve Witkoff met with Ukraine's Chief of Staff, Andriy Yermak, in New York on Friday. That's to discuss Russia's latest deadly strike on Kyiv and the need for pressure on Moscow to bring peace closer. Yermak says the key priority is to push forward real diplomacy and ensure the implementation of all the agreements reached at the Washington summit. We are coordinating our efforts. The U.S. has approved a potential sale of air-launched cruise missiles to Ukraine worth an estimated $825 million. The potential sale of over 3,000 extended-range attack munition missiles includes GPS guidance kits and electronic warfare defenses for the weapons. NTD News.
Chinese troops are set to march in Beijing next Wednesday. The parade will mark the 80th anniversary of China's victory in the Second Sino-Japanese War. That's as the U.S. led Western alliances raising alarms over China's military activity in the Indo-Pacific. Tiffany Meyer from China in Focus has the report.
On Thursday, China released a list of foreign leaders attending its upcoming military parade. At the top were Russia's Vladimir Putin and North Korea's Kim Jong-un. Other attendees include officials from Iran, Belarus, and several Asian countries, even leaders from Indonesia and Malaysia, which have maritime disputes with China, are expected to attend. In total, 26 foreign leaders will be at next week's parade. But analysts note that China's support for Russia's invasion of Ukraine may be keeping many Western countries away. So far, only Slovakia has confirmed attendance. When asked about the absence of European leaders, China's foreign ministry said the contributions of many European countries during the Second Sino-Japanese War will always be remembered. To put that war in historical context, China's current ruling party, the Communist Party, actually played only a limited role. Japan officially invaded China in 1937 and surrendered in 1945. At the time, the country was governed by the Republic of China, the government now based in Taiwan. Its military fought as the main force and accepted Japan's official surrender. The Communist Party was just a small militia back then. It only came to power later after defeating the Republic of China. Fast forward to this month, Taiwan has banned current and former officials from attending any war-related event hosted by the CCP. A Taiwanese spokesperson also denied any role by the Communist Party in fighting the Japanese. Meanwhile, Japanese media say Tokyo has been warning other countries through its embassies. Officials said China's upcoming military parade focuses heavily on historical issues and carries a strong anti-Japan message. They advise leaders to think carefully before attending. Zooming out, U.S. lawmakers and political analysts have described China, North Korea, Russia, and Iran as a new axis of evil. Now, some Western scholars call them an axis of upheaval, citing their role in global conflicts.
For more exclusive China news and in-depth analysis, tune in to China in Focus with Tiffany Meyer at 9 p.m. Eastern right here on NTD. A police killing has sparked unrest in Indonesia. Students are vowing more protests after a motorcyclist was killed by a police vehicle. Here's more.
Hundreds of protesters have taken to the streets over the death of Afan Kurniawan. The rideshare driver was hit near Parliament yesterday, while police were trying to dispense a demonstration over lawmakers' salaries.
The trigger was last night when our friend Afan became a victim. Honestly, I cried seeing the news. I'm appalled, I'm angry. All emotions are mixed in me. I want everything that's happened. All of the sins of the police, they should atone transparently.
President Prabowo Subianto expressed condolences for Kurniawan's death and ordered a thorough probe of the incident. Police say the crew of the armed vehicle involved has been arrested.
Whoever is at fault, please take action, whether it's the authorities or anyone else. What I mean is, don't let this law only be sharp at the bottom, not at upper level.
Protests started earlier this week over what demonstrators called excessive pay and perks for legislators.
I pay all my taxes. I'm a tax-compliant citizen. Even when I was in the entertainment industry, I paid my taxes, but I don't know who my taxes are going to. Meanwhile, the people inside the House of Representatives building don't listen to the complaints of their own people at all. That's what makes me really concerned.
The military has been deployed in some areas to address the latest protests.
Good news for your wallet this Labor Day weekend. We haven't seen gas prices like this in years. We have more on that story when we return.
Is deep-sea fish oil really healthy? Due to pollution in the oceans, most fish contain heavy metal elements and radioactive substances. That's why it's so important to choose a pure source of omega-3. Puritan Green Vegetable Omega-3 is made from purslane and perilla seeds, which are rich in nutrients and minerals. It effectively improves brain power and is beneficial to the heart's health. Puritan Green Vegetable Omega-3. Eat 2 a day and you'll feel brand new.
The bladder control aisle. You won't shop here again. Your private business is your own. The constant struggle is over. Now there's a better way. It's HDIS. We home deliver bladder control products. We understand how you feel. For over 25 years, we've home delivered to many of the 20 million Americans who deal with incontinence. We offer all brands. We pay shipping and use plain, unmarked boxes. If we can help you or someone you care for, call for your free product sample pack and $45 in money-saving coupons. Our counselors will help you choose the right product. And unlike stores, we're always in stock. You'll get what you need. Satisfaction guaranteed. HDIS, the better way.
For your free sample pack with your free catalog, $45 in money-saving coupons, and free product samples, call 1-800-701-6159. That's 1-800-701-6159.
I'm excited to announce that we're having a huge sale on overstock and brand new products. For example, My Pillow Percale bed sheets, every color, every style, every size, only $29.88. Our Percale bed sheets are breathable, cool and crisp, and they're perfect for spring and summer. And check out Rev 7, the next generation of energy drinks. It tastes great, and it gives you energy all day with no jitters and no crashes. Best of all, it's actually good for you. And for a limited time, try our 3-pack absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% on our Rev 7 12-packs, or try our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. And our Percale bed sheets, all sizes, only $29.88. Twin size, full size, queen size, king sizes, all $29.88. Inventory is extremely limited at this price, so order now.
Focus on beauty, showcase nature, share kindness, feel brightness, capture the beautiful moments in your eyes. Your works will be showcased in galleries and on multiple online platforms, appreciated and collected. Please visit photo.ntdtv.com.
Good news for your wallet. Gas hasn't been this cheap on Labor Day weekend since 2020. Gas prices are expected to average $3.15 per gallon this year. And in some parts of the country, gas will be less than $3 per gallon. The lower gas prices are largely due to the fact that oil prices remain low. Police in Auburn, Indiana had a wild chase earlier this week thanks to a loose horse. Police encountered the horse running through a residential area after following the horse through the streets. They were finally able to contain her in a grassy area. Officers were able to get a hold of the horse's owner, who arrived shortly after to take her home, safe and sound. But Wednesday wasn't the first time the horse gave officers a run for their money. Officers corralled the same horse Monday after it was spotted running through downtown. If you love great music, here's something special. The NTD International Chinese Vocal Competition is taking place this weekend, August 30th and 31st. Top Chinese vocalists from around the world will bring bel canto to life, performing everything from Western opera to Chinese art songs. It's a unique opportunity to experience tradition and artistry coming together, all at the Kaufman Music Center in New York City. Coming up after the break, Secretary of State Marco Rubio will make his 4th visit to Latin America on the first week of September. The trip highlights the Trump administration's efforts to eliminate national security threats emanating from the region. That and more when we return.
Hi, I'm Ty Pennington, here for Choice Home Warranty. They protect my home from expensive repairs, and they can do the same for you. No matter if it's your refrigerator, plumbing, or more than 20 other home systems and appliances, Choice Home Warranty has saved millions of homeowners a whole lot of money. For a low monthly fee, you get their nationwide network of trusted local technicians with plans that cover repairs and replacements done quickly and the right way. No more headaches searching for technicians. No more budget-breaking chaos. Just a peace of mind of having Choice Home Warranty at your service. Call Choice Home Warranty now and save big with their special offer of your first month free and free limited roof coverage. Call now.
Call Choice Home Warranty for your free personalized quote and to get your first month free. Call in the next 5 minutes, and as our special offer, you'll receive free limited roof coverage. Call now to lock in your rate and save big. Call 800-210-9106. 800-210-9106.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind,
They're just young people, hungry